welcome to the latest installment of My Dad Listens to This. I'm Juliet the daughter.
And I'm Kevin the confused dad.
This is our second take doing this. And today we are talking about the sibling duo that my dad thought I would stop liking in middle school, but I've continued to love ever since I was 8 years old. The Smothers Brothers. So Dad, what do we need to know about Tommy and Dickie?
Okay, we need to know that they were both born on Governor's Island in New York. Tom on February 2nd, 1937. So next year it'll be 2/2/22.
Yeah.
And Dick on November 20th, 1938. Their father, Major Thomas B. Smothers, was stationed on the island. He would later die a POW in 1945 in Japan. The boys would be raised by their mother in the Los Angeles area. They both went to Redondo Union High School. Tom was a competitive unicyclist. I didn't know you could be competitive in that. And champion gymnast on the parallel bars. Both went to San Jose State College, where Dick ran track and Tom was in gymnastics and pole vaulting.
Guess we know how he fell in the vat of chocolate.
We'll get to that later.
Yep.
For a brief time, they were both in a folk group called the Casual Quintet. The brothers broke off in 1959 to work as a duo. At first, Tom said he wanted to be a folk musician, but did not think he was good enough to be a professional musician, but was funny enough to do comedy. So they started incorporating bits into the folk act. They made their first professional appearance in February 1959 at the Purple Onion in San Francisco. They were popular in clubs. They signed with Mercury Records and released their first album live at the Purple Onion in 1961, even though it was recorded in Texas, because the tapes that they did record at the Purple Onion didn't sound so pretty much good.
Oops.
But they still wanted to acknowledge that the Purple Onion gave them their start.
Is the Purple Onion still around?
I have no idea.
Yeah, we can Google it later.
Now, their albums were more popular than their singles, as a thread of a theme would work its way through the entire act. They ended up releasing a dozen albums from 1961 to 1968. During that time, TV beckoned. Tom started out as a regular on The Steve Allen Show. The brothers debuted together on The Jack Paar Show that same year. They also appeared on The Judy Garland Show in 1963 and inherited Judy's time slot when they got their own variety series in 1967. Before that, though, they starred in The Smothers Brothers Show, which lasted one season. The premise was Tom was an angel come back to Earth to oversee Dick, who played a swinging bachelor.
Oh my, how they swapped roles.
Yes. Yes. And Tom said that that was probably the most stressful thing he ever had to do up to that point in TV. Now, somehow, CBS offered the brothers a variety show, a hip one, something to appeal to the young people.
To the kids, to the youths.
Yeah. I'm sorry for the somehow, because there's scant information on the webs. But for a deeper background, pick up the book Dangerously Funny, The Uncensored Story of the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour.
I gotta read that book.
I read it a few years ago. And anyway, this show proved to be a major success considering it was on opposite Bonanza.
Oh.
This was Sunday nights. Now, the show started off innocently enough, but within a few weeks, it started pushing boundaries of what was considered permissible in TV satire.
We studied them in my AP US history class. We did a unit once that was television shows of the 60s, because there was just so much out there that it kind of reflected like how the culture was just insane back then. And we saw a clip of the Smothers Brothers, and it was one of the only times my classmates laughed, because it's Tommy coming on stage with a gas mask, and Dickie goes, "Tommy, where are you going?" "I'm going to college." And this was around the time of the riots during the Vietnam War.
Yeah. So Tom went to bat for the writers, among them Steve Martin, David Steinberg, Rob Reiner, and Pat Paulson.
Oh, Rob Reiner, cool.
Yeah, Pat Paulson would run for president a lot.
Oh.
And the brothers also gave airtime to artists not usually seen on TV due to their musical or political affiliations, such as Harry Belafonte, Joan Baez, The Who, and Pete Seeger.
Oh, cool. Oh, yeah, Pete Seeger makes sense.
In Seeger's case, he had not been on TV since being blacklisted in 1950.
Didn't Johnny Cash have him on his show, though? I saw that in that documentary I watched.
That was later.
Oh, later?
Johnny's show was end of the 60s, start of the 70s.
Okay.
Pete's version of Waist Deep in the Big Money was dropped from the broadcast because one verse was looked on as a metaphor for President Johnson in the Vietnam War. However, Seeger came back towards the end of the season and performed the song. Other controversies were Harry Belafonte singing Lord Don't Stop the Carnival against the backdrop of the 1968 Democratic National Convention riots in Chicago.
Uh-oh.
And another controversy was some of David Steinberg's sermons. At the start of the 1968-69 season, CBS ordered the brothers to turn in their episodes 10 days before airtime
Nope.
so the censors could edit them,
Nope.
which they did.
Oh.
Despite all this, the show was picked up for a 1969-1970 season. In April of 1969, CBS refused an episode that featured another one of David Steinberg's sermons. On April 4th, 1969, CBS President William Paley canceled the show, saying the brothers had failed to meet their pre-delivery dates. Hee Haw took the time slot, and that show, while it did well, became a victim of the 1970-1971 rural purge.
Rural purge?
Yep, when networks canceled still popular TV shows due to a move away from rural to more urban and suburban audiences.
Huh.
This would be like Beverly Hillbillies, Green Acres, Petticoat Junction, Mayberry RFD, and the first victim of the purge, believe it or not,
Andy?
was Gomer Pyle,
USMC.
because they realized, wait a minute, this show is about someone in the Marines, the military, and not once was Vietnam ever alluded to. And they thought, we kind of need something more real. The reason that the rural purge started was this executive, Fred Silverman, who would go on to be president of NBC TV, realized that, hey, we're not getting the eyeballs of people from 18 to 35 who have more disposable income.
The demographic.
So we need to appeal to them. And his boss said, oh no, advertisers love the rural shows. They love them because I guess they were safe. And they didn't have to worry about should we advertise on this show or not. And Fred Silverman actually won that, and his boss got fired. But anyway, that's a long story that you can see on Wikipedia.
And when we also did that unit on the 60s, we saw the report on the CBS Evening News that Walter Cronkite had to deliver from the network saying that the Smothers Brothers were canceled. And we could see, like, Mr. Hanlon, our history teacher, hi, Mr. Hanlon, if you're out there, looked at us and he said, do you think Cronkite was happy to be talking about that the Smothers Brothers were canceled? And we're like, no. He looked like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm reading this. But also, it wasn't just that. It was the look of, I can't believe we're censoring these guys. They're friggin' hilarious.
Well, shows that did take place after the purge were All in the Family, The Carol Burnett Show, Bob Newhart, Mary Tyler Moore, The Jeffersons, and on and on and on.
Carol Burnett had the Smothers Brothers on, though, once. We saw that when we got the DVDs from the library. It was pretty funny.
Okay, anyway, the brothers filed a breach of contract suit against CBS.
Did they win?
After 4 years of litigation, a federal court ruled in their favor.
Yes.
CBS had to pay out $776,000, which is the equivalent of over $4.5 million in today's money. For more detail, check out the documentary Smothered, The Censorship Struggles of the Smothers Brothers Show, which I saw that one too on PBS some years back. Interesting stuff.
Okay.
Eventually, the show was revived a few times, but it was never the same again. In 1988, they came back to CBS for a 20th anniversary special, and they used some of that to roast CBS for canceling them.
That opening monologue is hilarious.
Well, did you see what happens before the opening monologue?
Yeah, they're riding in the helicopter to CBS Studios, and CBS tries to shoot them out of the sky.
Yes, they're firing on them. Yes. They went on to perform together and separately, Tom taking on the persona of the Yo-Yo Man.
Oh, yes.
He's a yo-yo pro.
Which, to my generation, you may be thinking, I've never heard of the Smothers Brothers. Well, does this iconic Vine sound familiar to you? I want to be a yo-yo man. Make me a yo-yo man, he cried. But the yo-yo master did not answer. He just kept on yoing. Yes, that is the Smothers Brothers. One of the most popular Vines of all time is them. And it's Dickie narrating.
Huh.
Yes.
And Dick actually had a part in Martin Scorsese's movie Casino.
I read about that.
As Senator Harrison Roberts, who was based on Senator Harry Reid.
From Nevada. I still have to see that movie.
In 2003, they received the George Carlin Freedom of Expression Award in recognition of their comedic gifts and unfailing support of the First Amendment. In 2008, they received the Lifetime Achievement Award at the Boston Comedy Festival. Also in 2008, Tom, who was a lead writer of the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, finally received his 1968 Emmy for Outstanding Writing in a Comedic Series.
How come he couldn't get it back then?
Steve Martin presented the award. Back in 1968, Tom refused to let his name be on the list of writers nominated because he thought his name was too controversial and thus was the only member not to receive the award.
Wow.
In 2010, they were inducted into the Television Academy Hall of Fame,
They deserve it.
which does not induct people every year. They only induct people when they feel like it.
Oh, so you gotta deserve it.
You gotta earn it,
I
baby.
kind of respect that.
Yeah.
It's like we're gonna wait and we're gonna vote and we're gonna think about it.
Yep.
I'm like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame bastards.
They retired from touring in 2010, though they did reunite in 2019 for a meet and greet at McCurdy's Comedy Theater in Sarasota, Florida. So they performed from 1959 to 2010, 51 years, making them the longest performing comedy duo ever.
Good for them.
No one's come close. They've been eligible for induction to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame since 1986, the year the hall opened. I'm not
I don't know if they count.
So, no. I mean, if Weird Al's not getting in, then the
Smothers Brothers aren't getting in, yeah.
And they should probably get in first. Anyway, as for me, I'm pretty sure I picked up this CD called
Sibling Revelry. Dad thought it was Rivalry, but we Googled it, and it's Revelry. I knew my eyes weren't deceiving me.
I stand corrected, and this is why we're doing take two. So anyway, I picked it up at Newberry Comics. I think it was just like $2 or $3. And I was just looking for something different. The only thing I knew on it was Mom Always Liked You Best, and that was it. And Rhino put this out in 1998, and for years it was the only Smothers available on CD. Now, a lot of the original albums are on CD and on MP3 on Amazon, and I'm sure you can stream them anywhere else.
One quick story before we start, though. I remember when I was in middle school, and I was listening to the Smothers Brothers all the time, and it was one of those days where everybody was just playing basketball in the gym because the holidays were about to start and nobody wanted to do anything. And so these two kids were acting up, and my gym teacher, I forget his name, but he blew his whistle and pointed at the two kids and he went, "Hey, Tommy and Dickie, quit it!" And I walked over to him and I went, "Is that a Smothers Brothers reference?" He looked at me like, "Yeah, how'd you know that?" I was like, "I listened to their CD in my dad's car."
Funny.
But he was younger than you, so I was surprised.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, let's start the album. Now, keep in mind, this is the first comedy album that we're covering, so we're not going to spoil the jokes. We're just kind of going to give the premise of each track, and it's on you to look it up if you want to hear the punchline.
Yeah, I got to say, this was probably the hardest time I ever had writing notes for one of our podcasts, because like you said, you don't want to give it away, and I just kind of wanted to give the general idea of, well, this is what it's about, but you got to listen.
All right, first track, Pretoria. The album opens with the Smothers Brothers singing and whistling a cover of the Weavers' classic, saying that they are marching to Pretoria, amongst other fun adult activities. This city is one of the 3 capitals of South Africa, not to be confused with Peoria, Illinois, as Tom points out. As for the dig at Peggy Lee, I tried going on Google to see if she did a cover of the song from Bridge over River Kwai, but the articles were all behind paywalls, so...
Well, plus, no, I mean, Tom was just kidding.
I know, but I was like, well, I just want to be sure. This also sets up the banter we're going to hear for the rest of the album. The song starts, Tommy does a comedic riff with Dickie playing the straight man / second banana during the instrumental, and the song eventually reaches its natural conclusion. Eventually. And you really appreciate that they are comparable musicians because the tempo never veers off course, and they sing in perfect harmony with one another, creating a pleasant sound. And the fact that this is recorded at a club really makes it feel like you're watching a show. Good opening track in terms of setting the tone.
Yeah, but wait, who's playing the drums?
A drummer?
Well, see, the brothers actually started off as a trio.
Oh.
Tom on guitar, Dick on bass, and I can't remember on the drums. Again, if you check out the biography, Dangerously Funny, it has all that information. But then Tom and Dick quickly realized, hey, it should just be us. We're the brothers. Because it used to be the Smothers Brothers and...
So-and-so.
Yeah, and I wish I could remember the guy's name. Sorry, drummer guy, who I forgot. Anyway, Pretoria is the executive capital of South Africa. There's also Cape Town, which is the legislative capital, and Bloemfontein, the judicial capital.
Well, we know that the colonizers put that one in.
So Tom makes it a point to stress that this song is, as you said, Pretoria and not Peoria, because all the marching songs are done in foreign countries. He then rambles on about the march over River Kwai, and how not once did anyone sing the words. The words were dirty. Plus, it's always been an instrumental. It's the one that you whistle to. Everyone knows it as soon as you hear it.
Well, that's what
I
Tommy
can't whistle that
anyway.
well, but it's do 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 do. If you
Google it, you probably have heard it
yeah,
before.
if you YouTube Bridge on the River Kwai, you'll get it.
Next track, Tom Dooley. The track starts with Tommy saying that Dickie wrote the song we're about to hear.
And a fit of creative genius and passion.
And that the duo only performed it twice before a crass commercial group stole it from them, along with their luggage. So now everyone thinks the Smothers Brothers are ripping off this crass commercial group and they are ridiculed and persecuted. However, this is the first song that introduces my pet peeve, the shrill audience member that laughs way too loud.
Yes.
Holy crap. I don't know if this was because they had one too many drinks or what, but every now and then some audience member laughs at the wrong time or laughs appropriately, but the sound that comes out of their mouth is screechy and awful. And when they perform the song, everyone immediately recognizes it and they burst out laughing, except for Miko, though, because the song was written before my time, prompting Tom to say, I knew he'd be ridiculed. The performance is funny due to the dark subject material peppered with Tom's inappropriate laughs, ha ha ha, and also some fun with the words virgin and eternal triangle and the last word of the song. And it starts off very interestingly with Dickie vocalizing in the background and Tommy offering some PBS documentary-esque monologue. But that doesn't last long because it quickly descends into chaos. But even with the chaos, the Smothers Brothers managed to wrap it up nicely with a small bow.
Mm-hmm. So yes, allegedly Dickie wrote this in a fit of creative passion and how that crass commercial group, the Kingsmen, no, not the Kingsmen, the Kingston Trio, excuse me, Kingsmen was
Trio.
Louie. The Kingston Trio, yes, are the ones who stole his song along with their luggage. And they've been ridiculed and persecuted and prosecuted for performing this song the only 2 times that they did it. And now it's time to set the record straight, and they perform it in the Virgin Edition. And as Tom says, I don't know what that means.
Virgin?
Edition.
They
launched into a song about the Eternal Triangle, about a man named Tom Crudley, and another man named Jason, and another man named Sally Jean Johnson.
Who's that?
Sally Jean Johnson?
Yeah.
I guess it was who Tom and Jason were fighting over in the original Tom Dooley song.
Okay.
But yeah, the original is like one of these murder battle type things.
Gotcha.
And the consequences thereof.
Look, here comes a consequence. Next track, Chocolate. This track was never my favorite as a kid because I liked the comedy tracks better than the singing, and I thought the one lyric they sang over and over was annoying, even though the lolly-doo-dum day is catchy as heck. The gist is that Tom is singing about the time he fell into a vat of chocolate, but he's rather reluctant to explain how he fell in and how he got out. He says he can't talk about it because it was too traumatizing, which I could understand, especially if that was hot liquid chocolate.
Oh, I never thought of that.
Yeah. But it's obvious that he doesn't want to divulge because he's embarrassed. Well, think about it. If the chocolate was cold, it would just coagulate and it would be hard and kind of, you wouldn't be able to swim in it.
Surface.
Yeah, exactly. This is also the first time we see Dickie lose his patience with Tommy other than saying, hey, cut that out. Because come hell or high water, Dickie is going to make sure they finish this song no matter what antics his brother pulls. And when the song ends, it has one of the best screamed punchlines ever, which I still laughed at even when I thought the song was annoying.
Yep. So Tom falls in a vat of chocolate and yells, fire! And when Dick asks him why, Tom gives an answer that's both dumb and smart.
Yep.
Yes.
Which we're not going to say.
No,
you got to
we're not.
Google it.
And yeah, there's a hilarious build-up before getting to that point, though. And yeah, they do sing the chocolate thing a lot, but
what'd you do when you fell in? Well, I swam a lot. All right, next track.
Yep.
Laredo. This song opens up with the iconic line, I like to begin by introducing the entire ensemble. Then we see the second trope in the Smothers Brothers album. Dickie introduces a song very seriously and very sincerely to set up that this song is profound and definitely won't be funny. And the guitar riff that opens the song is beautifully tragic and sounds straight out of a Western. What makes it more haunting is that Tommy briefly sings the tenor part rather softly and mournfully. But then he breaks the spell by going, God, that's beautiful. You feel anything? After barely singing a sentence. And then you think this is going to be a sad song about finding the corpse of a handsome cowboy in a western town, but then very quickly the wool is pulled from our eyes and we realize it's just another wonderfully stupid song. And this is an occasion where we can openly see Dickie joining in on the pranking fun, which is very rare, but it's always good when he does.
Yep.
And this fake death theme will come back later with, in my opinion, slightly more memorable success.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so Dick takes the lead in introducing this one. He asks Tom to step up to the mic so the audience can experience something unique and odd.
And odd, very odd.
Which they definitely do. And yeah, it's one of the few times where Dick's in on the joke, which is nice. It doesn't happen a lot. And it's unexpected when it does.
Yeah, which is why you don't do it too often because it won't be special anymore.
Yep.
Next track, Daniel Boone. This is also where we set up the trope that Dickie is more book smart than Tommy. Dickie gives us a brief history of the figure known as Daniel Boone, and Tom completely mangles it. It's okay, Tom. I used to get him confused with Davy Crockett as a kid.
Everyone, even I still do. You know why? Because as kids, we watch like Walt Disney reruns on Sunday nights, and the same actor, Fess Parker, played Davy Crockett, also played Daniel Boone.
Well, that doesn't help.
So you wonder, wait a minute, which one are you this week?
Anyway, this is one time, though, where I wish we could see what was going on, because it's obvious that Tom is doing something at the beginning while Dickie is talking, but we don't know what he's doing. And we also set up the trope that while Tom is a talented musician, he's a bit more laid back than his brother when it comes to learning songs, which really helps the joke land, especially after Tom attempts to set up a badass intro. And the audience just explodes, and for the first time, we see that the song can't continue, but whenever they can't finish a song, it always makes sense and doesn't leave you hanging.
Daniel Boone, he was a trader and a trapper. Was that a trailer and a tractor?
One of those.
One or the other. Yeah, it's one of those where it's going and going and going and then all of a sudden, wait a minute, what? Yeah, like you said, just completely falls apart and there's just no way it can be picked up again. But it's hilarious. You have to trust us on this stuff, listeners.
You do.
I mean, because humor is like very personal. I mean, what we may think is funny, you may think is like, you've got to be kidding.
But you never know until you try.
But trust us, we have a superior sense of humor.
Next track, The Saga of John Henry. Now, if you were like me and you grew up with the Disney version, the Disney short in school, where John Henry dies at the end just like in the original story, don't worry, here's one that does have a happy ending. Just maybe not the way you'd expect. I think my favorite part of this is Tommy pointing out that the story starts out with John Henry as a baby, so how the heck could he make a fulfilling prophecy at barely 6 months old? Dickie has to remind him that he has to think ethnic if he wants to keep his folk singer pin. Then Tom goes on and on and on about all the stuff John Henry hit with a hammer as a kid, and when it gets to the race between the steam engine and John, both Dickie and Tommy go all in for the sound effects. This version of the saga of John Henry is now tied with the Disney short as my favorite. I love it so much. Plus, this is also the first time we hear Dickie crack and laugh at his brother's joke.
Now, this is a little under 9 minutes, but it flies by.
Yeah, it does.
Tom manages to mangle the legend. John Henry manages to pee on his father's knee as a little baby, and when he was a little older, John's father got him a hammer, which John took to everything. As he got older, John got a bigger hammer. He went around the neighborhood, hammering trees, hammering fences, hammering fire hydrants.
All the dogs in town hated John Henry.
Yep. And then we get to the story of him driving rail spikes, competing against the steam drill. Much spitting ensues.
Yep.
John just spits on everything.
Like a baseball player.
Yep, and he loses. But yes, there is actually a happy ending for him, which does not result in his death. And it's like something so obvious and hilarious.
Next track, Gnu's. This is the first track we hear where it's all comedy, no songs. Dickie asked Tommy if he could do anything else, what would he do? Tom's answer? He'd be a game hunter, hunting Gnu's. Yep, you heard that right, because that's how Tommy pronounces it. Why Gnu's? Because they straight up eat pumas. And he is able to take that pronunciation and run with it for a solid couple of minutes.
Oh, yes.
There's no point to this, as we discover at the end, and Tommy ends it perfectly to wrap up the bit so that it's not just filler. But when it comes to the rest of the comedy tracks on the album, oh, they're just getting warmed up.
Yep. So the reason that this one starts is Tom decides that if he wasn't a musician, he'd be a big game hunter, go to Australia, and hunt that most vicious animal of all, gnus. Yes, Tom pronounces
Yes.
the G, among other words.
Yes.
Yeah, this is kind of a little out of place, and I wish that they had done this more chronologically, because the thing about the pumas kind of ties into another skit a little later, and it's kind of like if you heard the later skit, then this one makes more sense.
Yeah. Okay. Next track, Crabs Walk Sideways.
And lobsters walk straight.
And we won't let you take it for your mate.
2, 3, 4.
One of the great love stories that got swept under the rug, Tommy and Dickie tell us the story of Herman the lobster and Sally the crab, who fall in love, but their parents won't let them marry because crabs walk sideways and lobsters walk straight, and we won't let you take him for your mate.
2, 3, 4.
Also, if you Google the question, can crabs and lobsters mate, you see a video of the two trying to kill each other, so there you go. And the chorus is catchy as heck, even without the audience singing along. But I still sing anyway, because you feel like you're watching them at the club. And whenever the audience joins in on a Smothers Brothers track, it becomes even more fun. Especially when they don't sing and Tom forces them to at the top of their lungs. There are also fish and STD puns and a very interesting ending that I was too young to understand as a kid, but all I could say is that Sally deserved better than Herman for being driven to this point. And having just gotten to know these characters, it says a lot about the Smothers Brothers' storytelling abilities that they can have you automatically invested.
Yeah, Herman was a lobster. Sally was a crab. It'll never work out. Hilarious and socially conscious, because this can stand for, a myriad of relationships, of potential relationships. And I have one question for you. Where's the love?
It's there.
Sing like that.
Okay.
Which is hilarious. Because the audience is like singing along like very, very softly.
Monotone like a bunch of Catholics at church. Oh, come on. Brent Black said it best. He said that whenever Catholics are like singing in church or reciting oaths, they have the attitudes of 8th graders who don't want to do this but are being forced by their parents.
We don't.
Yeah.
We don't. And the worst and best example I can give of that is when I graduated 8th grade from St. Margaret's. We had to sing We've Only Just Begun by the Carpenters, No Word of a Lie. So they had us in pews, the first 2 rows of pews, facing the altar. And, you know, we'd practice and we'd sing and sing. And all of a sudden, like, I was in the 2nd row. So when it actually came for the graduation mass, okay, everyone turn and face the audience. So I've gone from being in the 2nd row, staring at the altar, to turning around and being in the 1st row, facing these people who are like standing like in the next row of pews, like right in your face. I'm like, you gotta be kidding. There's only one thing to do.
What?
Lip sync.
Yep.
Yep.
Anyway. Glad I dodged that bullet. Thanks, Dad.
You're welcome.
Next track, Jenny Brown.
Oh, Jenny
Brown. This time, Tommy and Dickie try to change the direction of their music and decide to perform a teenage love song. Partly because teens are going through a rough time, partly for the money. Mostly the money. So to launch their new career, they perform the tragic, lovely story of the teen angel Jenny Brown. The story is a man walking on the beach and finding his sweetheart lying in the sand, and she may or may not be dead. That's for you to find out, audience. I never liked the song as a kid because once Dad explained to me I was grossed out, but now the ending is perfect. And I can tell you this, if Jenny was written now, she'd be a manic pixie dream girl, no question.
Yep, in which the brothers decide to sing to the teenagers, like the Beatles. And as Tommy points out, you know, they've got Beatles wigs, but we couldn't have those because they didn't have much hair.
So they have Smothers Brothers ears.
Yes. And teenage love is never easy. It's all extremes. And so the Ballad of Jenny Brown. Passionate, warm, vivacious, eyes sparkling, alive, but screwed up. Just how screwed up? I don't want to give that away. But my most favorite line is when Tommy utters, "Gosh, where's Jenny?" It's just so ridiculous.
Next track, The Military Lovers. The song is very short, with a military officer asking, "Do you love me as much as I love you?" over and over. Tom performs the song with exaggerated machismo, and the music is a march evoking left, right, that progressively gets faster. I never liked this as a kid and even found the punchline at the end to be eye-roll inducing. Now I can listen to it no problem, but if someone pressed the skip button by accident, I wouldn't be clamoring for them to go back.
This was done to the tune of the Marines hymn.
Oh, okay, that's what it is. Okay.
Yeah. Less than a minute long. Absolutely hilarious.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I take my comment back. I would be clamoring for them to go back just for the punchline. I really like this track.
Yep, because it kind of presages the military in the Clinton era and beyond with their problems that they kind of had.
Yeah. It reminds me of my favorite Whose Line Is It Anyway sketch. Military pickup lines. I just want to stand here and stare at my privates. Next track. Mediocre Fred. It's always the ones you least suspect, isn't it?
It is.
The Smothers Brothers tell the story of Mediocre Fred, who sounds like a rejected blah character from The Office. He goes to work, goes to church, goes to the movies, watches TV, and drinks beer on a hot summer day, which is exciting, Mediocre Fred. But then we get into Fred's rather, unfortunate habit with some of the neighbors. I think this pokes fun of the one quiet coworker we've all had who's a little too quiet. Like if they wound up on TV being arrested and subsequently dragged into court, you'd nod your head knowing it was a matter of time before they snapped.
And as the neighbors always said, he was a quiet man. Very
quiet
man.
And this was another one I didn't like as a kid, but enjoy a little more now.
Yep. Yeah, it's just a song about a regular guy doing regular things, right?
Well...
Up to a certain point. My favorite line, play, magic fingers. Yep. This is probably one of my favorite tracks because it's just so unexpected. It just goes along, and then you're like, holy crap.
Yep. To which the audience just has like the best shocked laughter ever.
Yep.
Next track. Mom Always Liked You Best. Here we go.
This is true.
We come to my... I can't comment on that because Uncle Joey might listen to this and I can't finish up my Nana. Oh, I thought of something. Oh, we know who the least favorite is. Anyway, we come to one of my favorite tracks on the album where Dickie and Tommy hash out their resentments toward each other, stemming back from childhood right in front of the audience. Every time Tommy gets mad, he says, Mom always liked you best. But today is the day where he finds out that that statement was true. Then he remembers his mom used to make her preferences very clear to her sons' faces. Dickie was his mother's favorite, getting a dog, which leads to my favorite audience outburst of, oh, and a bike, and also going on hikes with friends. Tommy got a crummy chicken in a one-wheel wagon. We also get the introduction to the famous touchy, touchy.
Touche.
From Tom and from Dickie every time one of them manages to land a sick burn. And I can get why Tommy said in the 20th anniversary special when Dickie says, they didn't come to see us argue, and he goes, some of them did! Because when they argue, Tommy goes off uninhibited, and it's great. My favorite outburst is when he's like, and they all went out with their bicycles, and then, I didn't have a bicycle either! You had a bicycle! Then at the end, you find out how deep this resentment runs and take Tom's side, because the incident never would have happened if Tommy just got a dog like his brother. A comedic masterpiece.
Yep. This is their most famous routine. And back in the 70s, there was this Scholastic magazine called Bananas, and they had the entire transcript for the routine.
Oh, wow.
Which I kind of wish I still had, but, with the interwebs, I'm sure it's out there line for line.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is their most famous routine, and yes, Dick gets a bicycle and a dog, and Tom gets a one-wheel wagon and a chicken named Frank that doesn't bark good.
It was hard for the chicken to pull that one-wheel wagon.
Yes. My favorite line is, come on, Tom, let's go smoke some Crayolas.
I never said go smoke Crayolas. It stains your teeth. That's what it does. Next track. You Can Call Me Stupid. This track reminds me of the classic line, so did you have a happy childhood or are you funny? Based on this story, Tommy's was the latter. He recounts the traumatic moments of his childhood, including his brother Dickie's ruffian friends, Dickie gifting him Lincoln Logs, which were made of wood back then because my generation only knows the plastic ones.
Oh, that's horrible.
And an incident involving a parakeet and a pot of boiling milk. And it's one of those jokes where Tommy is able to reference a joke earlier in the set and incorporate it towards the end. It's also the one time where we see both of the brothers break on stage because the story they've made up is so outrageous they can't help themselves. Not as funny as Mom Always Liked You Best, but put together back to back, they're fun to listen to.
Yeah, because I kind of look at this as like a sequel to Mom Always Liked You Best.
Yeah.
And in which Dick's ruffian friends show up to make trouble for Tom. Hey, I'm a ruffian friend.
I'm a ruffian friend of your brother.
Yeah. And because they advised him to trade his bubblegum and chew the trading cards.
I wrote all 1949 St. Louis Cardinals.
Yep, hilarious stuff. And yeah, it does get a little weird with the boiled milk and the parakeet. And but it does work.
Yeah. Next track. Theater nerds, get ready. I talked to the trees. Now, Paint Your Wagon is a real Broadway show that was made into a movie musical starring Clint Eastwood.
And Lee Marvin.
Which I guess makes sense, Mr. I Talked to an Empty Chair at the RNC. And I have to say, he isn't awful, but he's so blah. And Lerner and Lowe never should be blah. He isn't as melodic as Tommy and Dickie, and he still manages to look slightly threatening while singing a love ballad. I mean, if you listen to the original cast recording, Tony Bavar is way more operatic, and the song soars. Lerner and Lowe are probably having conniptions when they heard Eastwood's blah vocals. As for the stage musical's history, it hasn't been revived on Broadway, but it was put on at Encores for a couple nights only, like a few years ago. The premise of this song is a shy young man is in love with a beautiful young woman, and he decides to talk to the trees and confess his feelings. Out of context and without a soaring baritone, it could sound kind of weird and hippy-dippy, so when the Smothers Brothers do it, of course Tommy's gonna roast the shit out of Dickie for practically 5 minutes saying what a stupid song it is. It's basically a way funnier version of a Twitter argument come to life, and Tommy cranks it up to 11 by talking to every single object made out of wood surrounding him, with my favorite, just a second. Hi there, stage, used to be a tree, didn't ya? And Dickie tries to shame Tommy for his crass behavior, but of course it doesn't work. This is an iconic Smothers Brothers bit, and I'm glad we have it recorded forever.
Yep, this is from the Broadway musical Paint Your Wagon.
Yep.
It's a stupid name for a stupid show, and it's just a stupid song, and it's just stupid.
And anyone connected with a show like that is going to be a dumb, stupid, weirdo freak.
Well, this song is about a young man kind of like yourself who's in love. Oh,
Maybe I spoke a little hastily there.
And we're gonna, at the rate we're going, we're gonna go do the whole damn routine. You can actually go on YouTube to see and hear Clint Eastwood sing this in the 1969 movie version. And I think the reason that he and Lee Marvin were picked was because up to that point they had done a crap ton of like westerns, like American westerns, spaghetti westerns. They were just known for westerns, and they figured, well, let's paint your wagon. Hey, let's go out on a limb here and cast famous western stars and
but then
may or may not be able to sing.
Yeah, but then go listen to the original Broadway cast recording version of this song and cry at the difference. Yeah, it's just, it hurts my heart.
Well, I actually watched Clint sing this twice. First in disbelief, and second, it was like, okay, since I was in such shock the first time, I really need to listen to this. And I thought, he's not as bad as I thought he would be, but I sure as hell would not listen to a whole album of him singing.
Yeah,
just like I would not listen to a whole album of Shatner. It's good in small doses, but that's kind of it.
That's it, yeah.
And I guess the other famous song from this musical is They Call the Wind...
Mariah?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I only know that because on the Muppets, when it was Robin Frog's birthday, and Kermit wanted him to sing, "You will sing, I Am 5," and Robin said, "No, I will sing They Call the Wind Mariah." That's the only reason I know it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dick takes lead on this and gets interrupted by Tom, of course, who thinks, like we said before, it's a stupid song. Talking to the trees. "Hi, Mr. Tree, how are you? Mrs. Tree, all little bushes." And it kind of definitely
progresses from there.
Takes off from there. But it's fall down funny stuff.
Yeah. Next track, Hangman, the only song this man ever wrote about a famous historical event. It's a short bit that pays off with the ending, and it's such a good joke that it was the first one Tommy performed for the 20th anniversary reunion in that opening monologue. Yep. And as soon as I heard it, I went, oh my God, they're doing Hangman! But the build-up is good with haunting vocalizations from Dickie and guitar playing in a minor key, only for it to come to a jarring end that I love. And we cannot give this one away. You have to listen to it for yourself.
Yep, because all I can say about it is Hangman, slack your rope. And saying more than that would just give the whole thing away. I mean, the payoff is hysterical.
And when we say it's the only song he ever wrote, we mean it. Next track, Cabbage. This is my favorite Smothers Brothers track on the album, but I always thought they made this song up just to tell the story. So imagine my surprise when I heard this song on the Andy Griffith Show in full when watching one day at Nana's house. Over the course of 6 minutes, Tommy and Dickie regale us with tales of the American railroad workers. And the track is 6 minutes long due to monologues, and of course, Tommy getting on Dickie's nerves with refusing to take it, which is against the folk singer's credo, only later to flip the credo on its head, sex jokes, prompting Dickie to say, "You're a real garbage mouth, you know that?" and historically inaccurate tangents about pumas. This isn't so much revisionist history as to make history so absurd that you can't help but laugh. And because they space out the jokes at an appropriate rate, it never feels like 6 minutes. Bravo to Tommy and Dickie.
Because it's more like 10.
Oh, God, yeah.
It is. Yep, it's just a little short of 10 minutes long. Yep, they start off singing about hoe cake and cabbage, and I had to look up to see what a hoe cake is. And basically, this is how rough things were out there with the building of the railroads, and maybe in general for people. A hoe cake was a pancake that you made on the blade of a heated hoe, you know, those things in the garden. Oh, cool. Yeah.
Like when you crack an egg on the sidewalk.
I guess you would make sure that the blade was clean first before you poured the batter on it.
Maybe they didn't.
Stick it over the fire, and that's what they would use as the griddle. Anyway, so they start singing off about hoe cake and cabbage, and Dick tells Tom to take it. He refuses, and things go downhill from there. But eventually, things sort of get back on track. We learn about the men who built the railroads across the bosom of America.
But I throw a little sex in the show.
Yeah, very little. They're facing lurking dangers in the mountains, building across blazing rivers and raging deserts.
Tommy.
And crevices with pumas.
Tommy.
Yes.
Raging deserts and blazing rivers?
Oh, hey, it was a hard life.
They were tough, man. They gotta cross those.
Yep. And then Tom and Dick get into a fight about whether or not there really were pumas in the crevices.
There was not.
Could have been cougars, though.
Oh,
because I did some research on Wikipedia, and the cougar there is indigenous to most of like America beyond the Mississippi. There's like a lot of red is on the U.S. map, and this is where all the cougars are.
Maybe Tiger King shouldn't have been surprising then.
We're talking about the four-footed cougars, not the
ones who hunt younger men.
Yeah. So it could have been cougars out there, which do exist in the western U.S. And then Tom tells Dick to take it, and Dick misses his cue. Well. Yep. But hotcakes boiled in cabbage juice. Oh, it just sounds
to quote Tommy,
horrible.
but every time I eat this stuff, I always feel like bleh.
Yeah. Do not make them for us.
Please don't. We will not eat them. Do not send them to our house. No.
Nope. Unless you could get Babish to do it, because it is referenced in the Andy Griffith Show.
Hey, binging with Babish, you want to do hotcakes and cabbage juice?
Oh, just get him to do that.
I'll tweet binging with Babish. See if he responds. We'll see.
And reference the Andy Griffith Show.
Yep.
Or even the Smothers Brothers.
Both. It would work for both. All right, next track. Michael row the boat ashore. I've never liked this song. The music doesn't go anywhere. It's basically just the same words over and over, which is great because you get the sense that Tommy and Dickie don't like the song either. So they poke fun at the vocals and motivational narration, and they harass the audience into joining them so Michael can hear them and land the friggin' boat. Oh, and if you don't sing along, they will call you out for it.
Yes.
But I have to say, when everyone sings, they sound beautiful, and Dickie's tenor helps create a nice harmony. So when I listen to this track, I hate the song a little less, and that says something.
Yep, the brothers sing the traditional song with audience participation and sing loud so people driving by the auditorium will wonder, what the hell's going on in there? And my favorite line that Tom does a couple of times is, come on, Mike, trim those sails, Mike. And yeah, it's like, if you don't sing, you are in big trouble.
Oh, yeah. Plus,
the other thing we learn is that humming with your mouth open can be dangerous. You should be going, instead of, oh, this is dangerous. No, it's not. But yeah, they definitely make an old warhorse boring song hilarious.
Yes. Final track, You Didn't Come In. Talk to the Trees is back, but this time, to Dickie's surprise, Tommy doesn't try to sabotage him, and he wants to know why, damn it. And Tommy realizes why Dickie wants him to interrupt. Oh, okay, I can't say it. All right. Then we get to the pinnacle of the Twitter argument. Have you even seen Paint Your Wagon? And Tommy's answer is pretty much what every Twitter account says in response, especially if you live in the U.S. But the back and forth between the two is hilarious and kind of similar to the pronoun trouble between Daffy and Bugs Bunny.
Yes.
I can't give it away. But also the you better say what you're supposed to say foreshadows their battle with the censors and how they lost but also won at the same time. The song ends with Dickie giving up and telling Tommy to sing whatever the hell he wants with a track entitled My Search, which ends with a punchline saying that no matter the fights, the two brothers will be happy to roast each other and everyone and everything, much to our delights.
Yep, like you said, Tom does not interrupt Dick this time when he sings I Talk to the Trees, and it pisses off Dick for a very surprising reason. But yeah, then they go off into Tom's statement of purpose song, which is hilarious, and kind of a nice way to end the album. Yeah. Like I did some research into the track listing, and for the most part, Rhino did put the tracks in chronological order.
Okay.
For the most part.
Yeah, except with GNU's.
Yes.
Next track. Final thoughts. Overall, the Smothers Brothers are hilarious, and I wish my generation knew them for more than the Yo-Yo Man Vine, considering their humor has aged pretty well. So if you get your hands on this CD or a DVD copy of their show, which you can find probably on Amazon, watch and or listen and be happy to laugh your ass off. Enjoy!
Yeah, humor is personal, and like I said before, what one thinks is hilarious, someone else may not.
Yeah.
So you can go on YouTube and check out some of their bits, and I'm glad I have this collection. I've listened to it a lot, and each time I listen to it, believe it or not, I actually find something I didn't notice before. Some little things here and there. And as for the influence, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but one of the things I thought of was people were telling Tom, oh, if your show was on today, you guys could get away with anything. And Tom's response was, no, you think we could, but it's still TV. And I thought, I think one of the shows that is kind of like a child of the Smothers Brothers, correct me if I'm wrong, is Last Week Tonight.
With John Oliver?
Because he's very topical. He does it in the comical way. Granted, it's on HBO, and he can swear his head off, which he does. But I think it's like I think it's an offspring of the Smothers. I mean, granted, the Smothers
Yeah.
were on regular network TV back when we only had 3 stations, kids,
Mm-hmm.
and given that they did kind of have to watch, they couldn't drop F-bombs or anything like that, obviously. But it was satire, and it got more political as it went along, and it was kind of like you were watching a weekly version of The Daily Show, because they told you, hey, this is what's going on in the country, and we're going to do this in a hilarious way, even though it pissed off CBS.
I think, though, that the John Oliver connection, you might have a more fair point, because he has more musical numbers than I think The Daily Show ever did. I don't know. But I remember he did, like, a parody of Sesame Street, teaching kids, like, you're like 1% of the U.S. population is in prison, and Sesame Street had to do a song telling kids that if your parents go to jail, you're not alone, so he did a spoof on that. He also had Weird Al come on to sing "Please Don't Nuke Us, North Korea."
Yes.
Because accordion music is popular in North Korea. He also did the song "Eat Shit Bob" when he was sued by like this like coal miner CEO or something. So I think he could get away with that. But hey, audience, what do you think? If you had to compare the Smothers Brothers to a contemporary comedy actor television show, what would it be? And tell us why in the comments.
Mm-hmm. Now, also, go on YouTube to check out when The Who were on the Smothers Brothers show. Basically, the version I found was what was used as the opening for The Who's film The Kids Are All Right, which was like basically film concert performances here and there. And Tom introduces the band, and the introductions for each band member are hysterical. And this whole thing is worth it for Keith Moon's hilarious fake drumming, because Roger and John and Pete are singing live, but the music was pre-recorded, so it's just a backing track.
Oh, no.
Keith doesn't even bother trying to play along. It is hysterical. He's just like, I'm going to do whatever I want, until the end, where he does his usual
Tears
animal,
it up?
not animal imitation, because he was the animal before animal was animal. But yeah, he just tears it up, but it is hysterical.
Well, for the Smothers Brothers, it would work.
Yeah, I mean, Pete and John, they are faking it extremely well, especially John's bass solo. I mean, you'd swear he was doing it, but it's hysterical.
Yeah.
Highly, highly, highly recommended.
And on that note, thank you for listening to another installment of My Dad Listens to This. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. If you follow me on social media, I post the episodes there. If you are friends with my dad and you want a specific episode, email him and he can shoot an episode right to your inbox. Thank you for listening to another installment of My Dad Listens to This. We'll be back next time with another album to nitpick and gripe about. Dad, anything you want to say before we go?
Yes, Mom always liked me best.
Here we go. What do you mean? Bye.